Ever had that feeling, where you really want to understand what makes someone tick, like their absolute core quality?
Well, what really defines them.
Exactly. Well, in this deep dive, we're kind of applying that same idea, but to the divine. We're jumping into chapter 10 of the Bhagavad Gita Vibhuti Yoga.
Ah, yes. Where the focus shifts, doesn't it? It's less about the how-to of action and more about grasping the sheer magnificence, the glories of the Lord.
Right. And this is really for anyone listening who finds the Gita maybe a bit vast, maybe slightly intimidating.
Definitely. Think of this session as a focused look. It's a structured way to pull out the really key insights from this chapter without getting bogged down. Kind of a shortcut, if you will, to understanding a pretty significant chunk of this wisdom.
Couldn't have said it better. So our mission today is clear. Chapter 10. We'll start by summarizing those first 20 verses or so, the ones that really lay the foundation.
The introduction, basically.
Yes. And then we'll get into the main event, the detailed descriptions of the Lord's divine glories, the Vibhuti. We're leaning heavily on the teachings of Swami Dayananda from his Gita Home Study course and classes.
And also, Swami Vedatmananda's insights from his classes and writings both offer such clear perspectives.
Absolutely. And understanding chapter 10 is, well, it's pretty crucial because it flows right into the next chapter, Visvarupa Darshana Yoga, the vision of the universal form.
It really does set the stage perfectly for that incredible vision. And it's good to remember, these aren't just interpretations pulled out of thin air. They come from a deep, long-standing tradition of study.
True. Okay, let's dive into the start of Vibhuti Yoga then. Chapter 10 kicks off with Arjuna.
Well, he's making this really powerful statement acknowledging Krishna.
He basically says, you are the supreme being, the origin of everything.
Yes. And he even brings up these respected figures, great sages, Narada, Asita, Devala, Vyasa, like saying, look, it's not just me. These wise ones confirm it too. Which is striking, isn't it? Arjuna's total acceptance here. He's not debating the source anymore. He's affirming it. That really paves the way for what Krishna's about to reveal. He gets that this isn't just one person's opinion.
But even with all that confirmation, the Gita makes a point of saying that the Lord's true nature, it's incredibly hard to grasp fully.
Yeah. Even for the gods, for the greatest sages, they don't get the complete picture.
It's quite humbling, really. Puts things in perspective.
It absolutely does. It shows the sheer immensity we're dealing with. If they can't fully grasp it, how can we? But crucially, the Gita gives us a way towards that understanding.
And that's through the vibhuti, the manifestations, right?
Exactly. Through recognizing the Lord's glories in the world.
Now, this is where it gets interesting. The text stresses that understanding these isn't just like an academic thing. It's a path to deeper knowledge and also, importantly, to devotion. It mentions keeping a constant stream of thought on the Lord. How does focusing on these specific glories help with that?
Well, if you think about it, contemplating these vibhuti, it trains your mind to see the divine in the world. Every bit of incredible power or beauty or, excellence you see, it stops being just random.
So it's a reflection.
Precisely. A specific expression of the Lord's glory. And that changes everything, doesn't it? Instead of seeing a bunch of separate things, you start seeing the connection, the divine presence underneath it all. Recognizing that constantly, well, that naturally builds devotion.
So it's almost like seeing an artist's signature style across all their different paintings.
That's a great analogy, actually, yes. Each glory is like a distinct brushstroke revealing something about the artist, and realizing this leads Arjuna to ask his big question.
Right, he wants the specifics now.
He does. He asks the Lord, basically, tell me about these glories in detail. He fully accepts Krishna's authority and truth, and he genuinely wants to understand how the Lord shows up in creation.
Okay, so Arjuna's primed, and this takes us right into the core of chapter 10, from verse 20 onwards. Krishna starts laying out these glories, and the very first thing he says, he says, I am the self-dwelling in the heart of all beings.
Foundational, absolutely foundational.
And the beginning, the middle, and the end of all existence.
Yes. It establishes the Lord not as some distant figure, but as the very core of our being and the very fabric of reality, the source, the substance, the conclusion, everything.
Then we start getting the specific examples, and some are quite memorable. Like among the Adityas, these ancient solar gods, he is Vishnu. Among lights, he's the radiant sun. Not just any light, but the source.
Exactly, the sustainer. And then look at this. Among the Maruts, the storm gods, he's Marichi. Among the stars, he's the moon.
The moon. Interesting. Not the brightest, but significant.
Right. It reflects the sun's light, a different kind of influence, a different beauty, perhaps. There's a reason for each choice.
And the examples keep coming, covering such different areas. Among the Vedas, he's the Samaveda, the musical one.
Known for its chants, yeah.
Among the gods, Indra, the king. But then a shift inwards. Among the senses, the Lord is the mind.
That's a big one.
It really is. Linking the divine right to our own thinking process. I mean, the very thing you're using to process this conversation that is pointed to as a manifestation, that's quite something.
And it shows the Lord isn't just in the grand external things, but right here in the subtle workings of our own inner world. You know, the Gita talks a lot about mastering the mind.
Right.
Well, maybe that mastery is, in a way, connecting with this divine aspect within us. And then he says, among living beings, he is consciousness itself, the very spark.
Wow. The list keeps unfolding, and it's so diverse. Among the Rudras, these fierce forms, he's Shankara, Shiva himself. Among the Yakshas and Rakshasas, these sort of semi-divine beings, he's Kubera, the god of wealth. Among the Vesas, another group linked to nature, he's Agni, fire.
Sacred fire, yeah.
And among mountains, the legendary Mount Meru, it jumps from cosmic forces to inner faculties. What does that tell us?
It really drives home that the divine isn't limited, right? It's everywhere. In the biggest, grandest things and in the most subtle parts of reality and experience. All of creation in its amazing variety is just reflecting the Lord's glory.
He keeps going. Among priests, Brihaspati, the teacher of the gods. Among army commanders, Skanda or Kartikeya.
Leadership, strategy.
Among bodies of water, the ocean, the vastness. Among great sages, Brigu. And then, this one's interesting, among speech, the single syllable Om.
Om, yes. That's incredibly significant. It's seen as the primordial sound, the vibration underlying everything in this philosophy.
So the purest form of speech.
Pretty much. The ultimate expression, concentrated, it's considered the sound form of Brahman itself, so focusing on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's seen as a direct line.
Okay. And among sacrifices, it's japa, silent repetition.
Internal focus again.
Devotion. Among immovable things, the Himalayas, steadfastness. Among trees, the Ashvatha, the people tree. That one's full of symbolism, isn't it?
Deeply symbolic, often representing the cosmos or the cycle of existence, with roots up and branches down sometimes.
Among divine sages, Narada. Among celestial singers, Chicharada. Among perfected beings, Kapila Muni. It's quite the lineup.
And each name carries its own weight, its own associations and meaning. Like japa highlighting inner practice, the Himalayas representing unshakable reality.
The list goes on and on. Among horses, Uchteshava is the one born from the ocean churning.
Mythic origins.
Among elephants, Airavata. Among humans, the king embodying order. Among weapons, the thunderbolt, Indra's powerful Vajra.
Ultimate power in that context.
Among cows, the wish-fulfilling Surabhi. Among procreators, Kama, the god of desire or love, the driving force. Among serpents, Vasuki. Among nagas, Anana.
Different types of serpentine beings, both significant.
Among aquatic beings, Varuna. Among those who judge or dispense consequences, Yama, the lord of death. Among the Daityas, Prahlada, famous for his devotion, even in opposition.
A key figure in Bhakti traditions.
Among calculators or reckoners, time itself. Among wild animals, the lion. Power, majesty.
The king of beasts, yes.
Among birds, Garuda. Among purifiers, the wind. Among wielders of weapons, Rama, the ideal warrior and king.
Embodiment of dharma.
Among fish, the shark. Among flowing rivers, the Ganges, the sacred Ganga. It's just an incredible scope.
It truly is. But the crucial thing to catch here, for you listening, is that Krishna himself says this isn't exhaustive. He explicitly states there's no end to his divine manifestations.
So this is just a sample platter, so to speak.
Exactly. It's enough for Arjuna and for us to get the principle.
And that principle seems to be, wherever you see something truly exceptional, powerful, beautiful, significant, you can recognize a spark of the divine there.
That's the essence of it. And then he seals it by saying he is the generating seed of all beings. Absolutely nothing animate or inanimate can exist without him.
Which connects right back to Brahman being the underlying reality, the substrate of everything.
Yes, perfectly. It reinforces that the Lord isn't just in some special things. He's the very source and sustainer of everything. Like, you can't have a pot without the clay, right?
Good analogy.
Same idea. Nothing exists independent of that divine ground.
And the chapter wraps up by saying that really getting this, understanding these glories, isn't just head knowledge. It leads to unwavering devotion.
And deeper knowledge of the Lord's true nature.
Right, it makes that point about knowing one thing you know all. Like understanding clay helps you understand all clay pots.
It beautifully ties back to that interconnectedness. Seeing the divine in all these different forms ultimately leads you to realize the one reality behind them all. That dissolves the feeling of separation, builds that unity, that devotion.
So, okay, let's distill this for you, the learner. After this deep dive into Vibhuti Yoga, what are the absolute must-know takeaways?
I'd say the core insights are these. Chapter 10 shows us the Lord's presence and power are literally everywhere in every part of existence. Getting to know these specific glories, these vibhuti, is a powerful way to connect more deeply with the divine.
But it's not just memorizing names.
Definitely not. It's about spotting the underlying reality that connects them all. Like these swamis teach, seeing the divine in all this diversity really adds a whole new layer to how you understand the world.
And how can we, practically use this? How does it move from concept to daily life?
Well, by consciously thinking about these glories, you can actually start to change how you see things day to day. You begin noticing the interconnectedness. You start seeing the divine reflected in your own experiences, like
Right.
maybe the stunning beauty of a sunset, or the amazing power of thought, or even just those moments of sudden, deep insight you sometimes get. They can become your personal aha moments, little glimpses of the divine at play. Drawing on this wisdom helps you appreciate how sacred everything really is.
That really sets us up beautifully for our next exploration, doesn't it? Chapter 11, Visvarupa Darshana Yoga. Things get pretty intense there. What's the brief overview?
Chapter 11 is where it all comes together visually, you could say. Arjuna, having heard about all these glories, now asks for and is granted a direct, overwhelming vision of the Lord's cosmic form.
The universal form.
Yes,
Yeah.
a truly mind-blowing revelation of the divine encompassing everything.
Wow. And it really makes you wonder, what actually happens when Arjuna sees all of creation contained within Krishna? How does that experience shift his understanding even further after hearing this whole list?
That's definitely a deep dive for next time.
It is.
But maybe for now, here's something to ponder. Think about the glories in your own life. Those moments of intense beauty or surprising strength or profound connection you felt. Could those moments, in their own way, be little echoes of the divine showing itself? It's worth considering how pervasive the divine might be, not just in scripture, but right here in our everyday world.